Today, I would like to ask the persons who are going to be conducting the press conference to enter the room. We'll just wait a few seconds for them to get here. So essentially, this press conference will be important announcements related to the, I call it festive season. Some people call it the holiday season. The government is very serious about dealing with issues of security in urban areas and other areas, especially in a period of heightened commerce, so people can feel safe in carrying out their daily activities. We would know that at this time of the year, certain individuals in our society see it as an opportunity to take advantage of persons who are conducting business. So the press conference is basically aimed at advising the public of the initiatives that are being undertaken by the government and by extension, the security forces. We'll have 3 speakers here today. We'll have the Commissioner of Police, who will make a presentation on the operational aspects of the initiatives. We'll have Lieutenant General Rocky Mead, Chief of Defense Staff, who will speak about the support that Jamaica Defense Force will be giving to the police. And leading off will be the Minister of National Security, who is currently fulfilling a role of Prime Minister while the Prime Minister is away. And he will be giving a policy outline of the initiatives and the support the government will be giving to the security forces. So I now welcome the gentlemen to the platform. Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chiang, Lieutenant General Rocky Mead of the JDF, and Commissioner of Police Major Anthony Anderson. We will get straight into it as we do not wish to detain you for very long, and we will start with a statement by the Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chiang. Dr. Chiang.
Thank you, Robert. The Permanent Secretary is Lieutenant General Rocky Mead, Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Anthony Anderson, Commissioner of Police, members of the media, other senior ladies and gentlemen of the public sector, good afternoon. Every year at around this time, people across become increasingly anxious about doing their business transactions. This, of course, is because there tends to be a surge in robberies and other types of acquisitive crimes, as well as elevated public disorder in and around our commercial and public districts. Given the increased commercial activities in anticipation of the end of the year festivities in particular, this is a matter that the government takes very seriously, and we are taking steps to effectively address it. The government firmly believes that law-abiding Jamaicans must be able to conduct their business in a safe and secure environment without fear of criminal activity. This becomes even more pronounced at this time of the year when there are increased commercial, social, and family-oriented activities taking place. I'm here today, therefore, to announce that in seeking to address this problem, we will be imposing intensified safety and security measures over the next 8 weeks in particular across Jamaica. These additional measures are part of our overall crime management strategy and will see a significant ramping up of police presence, particularly in the commercial districts and public spaces. This will be accompanied by other strategic, targeted, and intelligence-driven security operations to bolster public safety, maintain public order, deter acquisitive and violent crimes, and further disrupt the gangs that are the source of much of the crimes. These intensified safety and security measures are being put in place so that law-abiding Jamaicans can feel safe going about their daily lives and making their preparations for the end of this year activities. At this time of the year, people tend to want to celebrate irrespective of their challenges and should be able to do so without apprehension wherever they are. I have requested that the Commissioner of Police, supported by the Chief of Defense Staff and the instruction of the Prime Minister, put in place the requisite systems to reassure the people of Jamaica that everything is being done to intensify the work of the security forces in order to ensure public safety and good order. This will include strengthening the capacity of the security forces, both in terms of increased presence as well as other supporting measures. The Commissioner will also be monitoring and making adjustments as necessary during this period. Immediately following my comments, the Police Commissioner and the Chief of Defense Staff will be invited to provide you with some details as it relates to the operational dimension of these intensified safety and security measures. I wish to reiterate, however, that these intensified measures are being implemented with the intention of creating an environment in which our people can feel an increased sense of safety and good public order, particularly at this time. These intensified measures are consistent with the general policy directive and operational work that we have undertaken in order to secure Jamaica. You may recall that over the last 24 months, the government has taken strong steps to achieve strategic outcomes related to reducing the rate of violent crimes, combating corruption, improving police efficiency, interrupting gangs and particularly those involved in illicit transnational activities, restoring public order, and increasing public safety. This broader work of securing Jamaica is ongoing. We acknowledge that even with our best intentions, strategies, and plans, it has not been perfect. Some aspects of what we are doing will not receive much visibility at this time, but they are critical to building out the proper system for a long-term and sustainable crime reduction in Jamaica. The government is committed to this process and to creating a safe environment for all Jamaicans. I know that questions will be raised about the cost implications of implementing these intensified safety and security measures. Let me be abundantly clear. The government does not place a dollar value on any life. We do not estimate the value of these operations based on cost, but rather on the number of lives that are saved, the number of children and families that are spared from trauma. The government will commit the necessary resources through the budget. We have also given our full support to the work of the Police Commissioner, the Chief of Defense Staff, for putting in place the necessary safety and security measures so that Jamaicans can feel safe and that good order can be maintained across the island. As we move into another end-of-year festive season, the government remains committed to providing a safe and secure environment for Jamaicans to conduct their commercial, religious, social, and economic activities. The people of Jamaica must be made to feel a heightened sense of safety going into the end of the year and beyond. Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Chief of Defense Staff, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good afternoon. As the Minister indicated, this is a very important time of the year as we approach the festive season. It's not unusual for us as the police force to extend ourselves over the December period in the interest of making our citizens safe. This year, we are embarking on this and other efforts earlier. We're going from this point forward to the end of the year, not only to secure our city and our town centers, our commercial areas for between now and the end of the year, but also as we go into next year, we want to set the conditions that we can have a successful year next year in terms of the safety of our public. Obviously, at this time of the year, commercial activities increase. Criminals use this time as an opportunity to enrich themselves at the expense of law-abiding citizens. And obviously, our ever-present violence in our society is a concern now, as it has been a concern for a very long time. So what I'll be speaking about this morning are basically covering three areas. One, dealing with how we're going to be treating with public spaces and traffic management. The other one is how we're posturing to deal with acquisitory crimes. And thirdly, how we are dealing with and continuing to deal with violence and violent crime. So we embarked at the beginning of this school year on a particular type of traffic management system that has seen a more responsive approach to traffic concerns, and also a more focused approach on persons who have multiple infractions, multiple tickets that they are not paying. And to this extent, we assembled a specific team that goes and finds these people and arrests them and put them before the courts. Now, this has been helped tremendously by members of the public who have been sharing videos with us, sharing information on various online platforms. It has allowed us to pursue those cases, and in a number of cases, they have ended in convictions of persons so involved. I think this, you know, although still early days of this, I think over time we will get more and more success as our citizens become part of the solution. So I thank all of those people who sent in these clips, and even more so those persons who are willing to come forward to authenticate those clips as they being the ones who took them. Now, in our society, that takes a bit of bravery, but we have brave citizens. We have people who are determined to assist us to get a better society. They are not willing to stay back and just complain. And I thank people for that. And also for those people who have been placing on online platforms what has been happening in terms of our own service delivery. When they have concerns, they share it. We reach out to them as quickly as possible to get a response, to try and get some more details on the incident. It's very hard for us to pursue things unless we have the requisite information to do so. And people have been very helpful in that regard. I met with my divisional commanders on Monday and gave them a mandate around their town centers, but also a mandate around gangs, guns, and criminal leaders, i.e. dons. And they are to focus on that over the next 2 months. And to the extent that they have done that, I've started to see results, which I'll speak about in a minute. The same sort of deployments, the increased deployments around these commercially active areas, also assist us in dealing with some of the acquisitory crimes. We are aware that there are certain persons who have been using motorcycles to commit robberies. There are a number of cases and leads that we're following up in this regard. There are a few strategies that we're going to employ, and forgive me if I'm not going to say what they are right here and now, but we should start to see some effect. You'll see them when we start to have these court cases coming on people so related. So I know this is a concern of our citizens, and this is another focus area, both in a public order, public safety perspective, but also in how we allow people to go about their business over the next 2 months. For those persons who have used these online platforms to commend or to complain about us, as I said, I thank you. If you don't have access to that, we actually have a number that you can call in to do either of these two things. The number is 876-838-3084. That number goes straight into IPROB, which is headed by the Inspector General, DCP Hay. So whether it is a complaint or a commendation, we are very concerned and appreciative, concerned about us and our level of service delivery to make sure that it is what we expect and what you expect. But we also like to hear when our officers do good things so we can commend them. You're probably aware we have tomorrow a team graduating in Western Jamaica, which is a quick response bike, motorcycle-based team that will be operating in and around Montego Bay. This is something that will be duplicated in other areas as we go forward. We have 27 members of that team graduating tomorrow, and that's a graduation that I'll attend. They'll be focusing, again, in creating that safe space and responding quickly. With respect to violent crimes, we'll continue to use the provisions afforded by the states of emergency to control the levels of violence in these traditionally violent communities. By way of update, in the Tri-Parish area, there is a 35% reduction in murders and a 40% reduction in shootings when compared to the period prior to the state of emergency. In the Bi-Parish area, which is Clarendon and the two St. Catherine divisions, there's a 55% reduction in murders and a 51% reduction in shootings when compared with what was happening before. And in St. Andrews South, which is the other area, there's a 22% reduction in murders and a 32% reduction in shootings in this area. We've also redeployed some of our CIB assets into these areas, large teams to assist the divisional assets to, again, do targeted investigations on the gangs and their leaders, but also to target where guns are. Over the last 24 hours, we've recovered 5 handguns, 84 rounds, and a hand grenade. And that was part of the charge that went to the divisional commanders. So apart from that, we are certainly continuing our efforts in building our own force capacity with respect to investigations, and the DPP has been indicating to us, and I think she has probably said it publicly, that she is seeing a significant increase in the quality of the cases that are being put forward, the case files that are being put forward to the DPP, and she has attributed some of the guilty pleas that she's been getting to these quality files. So that's a step in the right direction. We also have a series of technology projects all in train, some 21 projects, and we are continuing with our restructuring activities. I have to thank the members of the JCF for their commitment and their continued commitment. I know it's going to be difficult over the next couple of months. And of course, in order to keep you safe, we have to be at work. We can't afford to enjoy the Yuletide season and that with our families. We have to be out there protecting everybody else. So I know our members always step up when called upon to do so. So I'm calling again for persons to, our own members, to do what you do best and protect and serve and be a force for good in Jamaica. It's a challenging time, but we can do it. And if there's one thing I'd like to emphasize at the end, it's not only the great support we're getting from a policy support and resource support from the minister, but significant actual support on the ground from the Jamaica Defense Force. They have been a great partner to us. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for being here and listening. Thanks.
Honorable Minister and Acting Prime Minister, Commissioner of Police and other heads of agencies, other representatives of ministries, departments, and agencies, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good afternoon. As part of its role in supporting the Jamaica Constabulary Force during these special security operations, the Jamaica Defense Force has taken a number of steps aimed at maximizing the effect of our activities. A joint task force has been established to deliver this support to the police in a number of hotspots and police divisions across the island. The joint task force is essentially an amalgamation of and reorganization of units and resources of the force. The goal here is to maintain a highly mobile and visible presence in these areas in order to deter criminal activities. Unfortunately, we cannot give the exact details, but rest assured it will place members of the security forces where they are most effective and most needed. One of the most significant features of this joint task force is the incorporation of over 400 new Jamaica National Service Corps graduates. These new soldiers have been extensively trained and are highly committed to playing their part and making their presence felt as a part of Jamaica's overall security infrastructure. We have very high expectations of them. In addition to the bolstered troop numbers as a result of the Jamaica National Service Corps graduates, we will also be committing the full gamut of our intelligence capabilities and some specialized equipment and resources to support and sustain continuous operations over the period. This will result in more snap raids, more patrols, more checkpoints, and overall more soldiers and police in the affected communities. We expect that our increased operations will assist the police in targeting and arresting and/or detaining gang members and other persons of interest while denying them the freedom of movement to carry out illegal activities. We will be especially vigilant in preserving secure public spaces, especially in and around commercial areas where persons are vulnerable to various types of crimes. I expect that law-abiding Jamaicans will warmly receive this initiative and will continue to support the security forces as they have so far. I am sure, too, that many persons may be concerned about the implications of the security operations on their daily lives. I want to reassure those individuals that both the JDF and the JCF will operate with the utmost respect for the basic human and citizens' rights of all persons within the communities. I want to make a comment about the National Service Corps that I mentioned earlier. These are youngsters who have been in training for the past year, and without a very long break in transitioning, we have extended their service so that they can continue to assist us with these operations. These are youngsters who are quite dedicated and quite willing to commit to service in Jamaica, and I thank them and their families for being willing to sacrifice their time to come to the support of the citizens of Jamaica. We're in turn also seeking the cooperation of all Jamaicans by imploring them to use either of the available tip lines. The Commissioner mentioned some of his tip lines before, and there's also a JDF tip line 876-837-8888. We all have a role to play in ending Jamaica's high crime, and particularly during this season when we expect heightened activity of criminal elements. Thank you in advance for your continued support.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening so attentively. We'd like to welcome representatives of the ministries, National Security Office of the Prime Minister, also members of the JDF, members of the JCF, and also members of other agencies and departments that are here to support, and members of the media, as I welcomed before. We will be taking a few questions, so you can signal by raising your hand. Someone will be with you with a microphone, just identify yourself and the media house you're hailing from. We'll start with, I don't remember your name, sir. What's your name?
That's okay. Kirk Wright. TVJ. I don't know. Commissioner, probably this one should be directed to you. Want to find out what informed the security forces' decision to go to Norwood, Montego Bay, to rescue those kids from that church.
Okay, thanks for that question, Kirk. So what we got, it started with a complaint from a mother who had said that her children were there and at risk, and reported it to the Child Protection and Family Service Agency, what formerly used to be the CDA, and they sought the assistance of the police to remove those children from there. That was done, and they were immediately taken to the courts, and the courts gave the children in custody to their mother. That was the first one that took place, I think, on October the 30th. On November the 5th, we went back after another complaint. I think this one was by a grandmother who hadn't been able to communicate with their children and suggested that they were in danger or at risk. This again was referred to the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, who again contacted the police, and we went with them to the compound to remove the other 3 children. They were also taken to the courts, and the courts gave over custody of them to the grandmother.
I'm assuming that the police are carrying out investigations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There are reports of uncertified marriages and underage girls being pregnant. Have you found any of that to be true?
Well, as you say, it's an active investigation, so forgive me if I don't say too much about it, the details of it in that regard. But those are some of the allegations there. We are interviewing people. We're also seeking persons who probably used to be in that group and are no longer there. And so there are a number of lines of investigation that are being followed at the moment on that.
One last question from me. It appears if the police wasn't prepared enough before you go, because you met some hostility. Did you have any idea at all that you would have, greeted with any kind of hostility going in?
Well, I mean, there are different levels of hostility. Clearly, if we were going again, we'd probably just increase the numbers that we take there. Yes, we saw some hostility, and some of it was, I think, on video, so people would have seen it. It didn't deter us from removing those children, and the members who were involved, both the military and police, showed a lot of restraint. The persons who had actually done some sort of physical attack on the police have been arrested subsequently, and will be before the courts charged for assault.
No charges yet, though?
Yes, charges.
Charges?
Yes.
For Dr. Chiang, I'll have one for you as well, Major General Anderson. In your presentation, you had noted that you... Oh, hi, my name is Giovanni Dennis, and I'm from the RGR Gleaner Communications Group. Essentially saying over the next 8 weeks, there will be an intensified move to protect law-abiding citizens over the holiday season. And while you specified and noted it's to reassure law-abiding Jamaicans, aren't you at the same time, though, alerting criminals by inviting every single media host here to say, hey guys, over the next 8 weeks we'll be doing this intensified thing in the urban space? Isn't that counterproductive?
No, we are letting the Jamaicans know that we'll be increasing activity. But we don't mind criminals to be aware that they will be met with the security forces out there. I don't think that changes criminal behavior. They may change their behavior, not a problem, but in fact, whatever apprehension the police seek to do will be based on investigation. And you'll have more men on the road, more activities, and therefore by conveying this to the citizens, I'm confident we'll get more information, which is critical of the operation, and increased cooperation by citizens out there. See, it is a security, and the one's a state of mind. Citizens need to be assured that the entire security apparatus of the country is now dedicated to creating a safer environment at a time when we know that commercial, social, and all activities increase. Right? And we look beyond that as well, because some of the operational activity that evolved from this, the chiefs of security will, of course, look to continue as we proceed down the road.
Major General Anderson, on the matter of bike thieves, you mentioned that the police are aware of it. That was the word you used. It's something that has been happening for almost 2 years, from my personal memory.
Long before that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's almost increasing in Western Jamaica and in the corporate here in Kingston. What has been happening with that in terms of the approach from the security forces? Because it seems to be on the increase, and it doesn't seem to be being stemmed, essentially.
Okay, so clearly there are some, and let me just refer to your first question, which was to Dr. Chiang, where you were speaking about what we say and what we don't say, and if this is counterproductive. We always have to strike a balance with informing and maintaining some sort of operational security. For instance, I can say that we are going to be increasing our covert presence in a number of spaces, but also, within these public spaces, but also on public transportation, etc. Now, whether bad guys want to know this now or not doesn't make a difference. What the concern would be is if I say where and when, right? But it is going to happen. We have seen a reduction in those sorts of bike offenses in some spaces recently, based on some initiatives that we did, particularly in New Kingston. We will continue to pursue some of them. We are also getting assistance from members of the public who have information in regards to this. So I was to say, we have some investigations running at the same time as we are doing the actual immediate operations to deal with this. So we have a suite of responses that we'll be doing with this, and we should see it go down. The challenge always comes with motorcycles about stopping them, but that also, there are some measures we can use in that regard too. Sorry.
I must apologize, but the RJR Gleaner group has had about 6 questions continuously. Could we allow another media house and then come back to you later?
Abka Fitzhenley, Nationwide News. Afternoon, gentlemen. Question to the police commissioner and perhaps the security minister. Approximately a similar amount of murders this year compared to last year. Right. What's your response to folks who refer to such and say that's evidence that the states of public emergency not working?
So prior to a state of emergency, or the use of state of emergency, we were at 1,635 murders for the year. Last year, we got a 22% reduction with the use of state of emergency but other measures. At the point at which we start to use a state of emergency, there's no other policing activity that stops. We intensified our investigations as well over last year, particularly as it relates to criminal gangs. And in that regard, managed to take a number of them into custody, which had its own effect on that. This year, we have states of emergency again. We got that 22% reduction last year. Pretty much we're tracking in the same way as last year. We know what it looks like. We know what things are like when we don't have it. I just quoted a number of figures, and none of those figures are small figures in terms of reductions in murders when comparing what was happening since compared to what was happening before. It cannot there's no version of how you can twist or turn those figures that suggests that people's lives are not being saved by it. Will it save everybody's life? No, it won't. There are a number of things that will have to take place to do that. What it does is largely remove the opportunity to do it. After you get enough confidence, you start to get information so that we can remove some of the means, which are the guns. The motive to commit murder, the desire to do violence is something that is not only in our remit, but is a long-term endeavor to do that. And so the numbers are the numbers. That's what they are.
Perhaps I could ask a follow-up, one follow-up to Dr. Chiang. To what extent, sir, would you say the failure to extend the SOE, for example, in St. James, affected or has affected the numbers this year?
No, repeat that. To what extent?
To what extent would you say the failure to extend the SOE in St. James, despite a 200%, 200 less murders in that division last year, to what extent do you think that has affected the current trajectory this year?
I stick to the numbers rather than give an opinion, which I have. If you look at the numbers, the time for it was not extended about 25% of the time of the year. And during that time, there was a dramatic increase in homicides. In fact, that's what you're trying to catch up on now. And I think it went awry because it was not extended, and the way it was not extended, there was a feeling by many criminals this was no longer a tool we could have, which is why I've insisted that no one is looking towards a long term, but it's a tool that must remain in the kit box when murders exceed the kind of numbers we're talking about. I always have to remind the audience, the St. James murder rate went up in 2017 to 183 per 100,000. That is the worst murder rate anywhere in any corner of the globe. So there can be a debate about the need for special measures to do it. We introduced it, we got a reduction to, I think, 102 to about 43 per 100,000. We withdrew the impact, and it shot up back in that region in a very short time. So we're dealing with a murder rate this year, which is near to what was last year, for 3/4 of the year. And without blaming anyone, they're certain that having that tool in St. James at that time, I think, resulted in a very dramatic increase, which we have to overcome in the shorter time. It's the nature of gang wars that is affecting the entire urban center, where you have a place like Montego Bay, St. James, or section of the corporate area. Gangs are endemic. And it will take time not only to change behavior, but to root out gangs, because they are part of the community it's part of the tradition of the community. You have gang leaders today who are grandchildren of gang leaders yesterday. And therefore, it's not going to happen overnight. And we have to ensure we have in place intense, strong, secure measures to disrupt their operation until we can root them out.
Do we have any other questions?
Mic check testing. Afternoon, I'm Jamaica from CVM. My question is to the Minister of National Security and maybe the Commissioner of Police. So there are reports of several police officers who've had their US visas revoked recently. Can the Minister confirm the numbers? And there are also reports that the reason may have been because of work done whilst on active duty. Have you been briefed, and can you confirm the numbers?
No, cannot confirm. We have not been briefed because the United States Embassy does not release that information to anyone, including the government of Jamaica. Okay.
Are you confirming the reports of the 67, or you're denying the reports of the 67?
I cannot confirm or cannot comment. The U.S. Embassy does not release information on their visa refusal. We are aware they're using the visa policy, which they have at their disposal at all times. A visa is a privilege from the offering country to enter their country. U.S. government can do so for anyone at any time, based on whatever reason they have. But they do not release that information. We only get that information when the individual releases to us.
My second question is to the head of the JDF. You spoke about the program, the service score being extended. Could you just recall how many members and for how long? And also, is this running concurrently with the next 8 weeks of operations?
Sure. So the Jamaica National Service Corps program, by way of the Amended Defense Act, allows youngsters to be engaged for up to 2 years under the program. Based on our desire to give as many youngsters opportunities as possible, we have started the program with a 1-year engagement. And so from time to time, for various reasons, we may extend a cohort any amount up to 2 years, because that's what the Act allows. The particular group I mentioned now is a group of just over 400 that just completed their year. And based on a number of administrative processes we're doing, and also the extra push we want to have, they've been extended for 3 months in the program. Now, why that is important is because at the end of the program, when they are certified, the graduates go to different services. They don't all remain in the Jamaica Defense Force. So we have had PICA, Corrections, Fire, JCF that may take some of these persons. And in fact, even the last batch that just graduated, there's a batch that's dedicated for the JCF. And so by extending them in the JNSC, they are allowed to all continue to work as soldiers for a while longer before they go to their other intended agencies. But it's all within the Act allowance of up to 2 years. None of them will be extended beyond 2 years within the JNSC. If they get to that point, they will transition to another service within the government service or private sector, whether it be the JDF, JCF, or other agencies. So this particular batch are just going up to 3 months over the normal year. They could be extended a bit more. We have up to 2 years. Sure.
There has been talk that the vehicles used by the JDF, that those vehicles are, for want of a better word, governed and they can't go more than 40 miles per hour. Is that true? JDF vehicles. We've been hearing that.
Right. So that statement is not true, but there's some truth in what you're trying to get at, and I can clarify. So the vehicles are not governed, the patrol vehicles, because, of course, the vehicles need to have the ability to respond to emergencies. There are times that they may legitimately need to go very quickly. Over the past year, I've had a spate of very serious accidents, one resulting in the death of a soldier and others resulting in many injuries. So I have imposed a restriction on the speed that the vehicles can go under normal circumstances. The vehicle commander still has the ability to increase the speed as necessary if the circumstances warrant. So if he's in a security operation and have to move quickly, if they're responding to an emergency, they can move quickly.
On spot?
Sorry?
On spot?
Yeah, the vehicle commander can make that decision based on the circumstances, but they have to justify why they were speeding afterwards. So under normal circumstances, they are restricted in the speed that they can operate at.
What are the ramifications? We hear they'll be Dr. Days pay if they go like 1 kilometer over anything like that. What are the ramifications for going above?
Well, I'm not going to discuss administrative processes that are available to us. I can assure you that there are consequences for breaking any of the rules that I have. That's just one of them. But I would not discuss our administrative procedures. But there are consequences.
How do you rate the effectiveness of the members of the Jamaica National Service Corps? A lot of them are part of the SOEs, right?
Yes.
How do you rate how effective they've been?
They have been very effective. So the Jamaica National Service Corps has allowed us to have an extended period of training and apprenticeship. So before that program, we essentially had a 3 to 4 month training period, and then they would be rolled straight into their full-time duties, regular service. Now we have training that includes not just the basic soldiering, but skill sets. They are all given a HEART certificate in certain areas. They are given on-the-job training in a variety of areas. So at the end of the day, whether they remain as soldiers, whether they become police or go to other services, you're getting a much, much better trained individual, and they have been doing very well. I'm quite pleased with the program.
Oh, we have more questions. Gentleman at the back hasn't asked any yet.
Yeah, Prince Moore from RJR. Commissioner of Police, in relation to the Norwood incident, can you say how many persons have been charged in relation to that? And I know it's early days yet, but can you tell us how soon can we can expect the results of the investigation?
Okay, just to be clear, as you remember, this happened, the last iteration of it happened 2 days ago, right? When I'm speaking about the charges, I'm speaking specifically about the people involved in the assault, not with respect to the children and all of those matters that are being investigated by the divisional CIB and Sissoko. That is a much more involved process, and the overall investigations around what is happening there at that compound. That's a much more involved thing. So I don't want to give you a timeline on it right now, but it's being actively investigated. Okay?
In relation to the incident?
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe one or, it's not many. It's one or two. The people who are directly involved, caught in camera, and those people who are directly identifiable as having assaulted. That's it. Not people who are just making noise and standing there. All right?
Can you confirm if human trafficking probe has been launched?
So all matters involving that area, involving those children, are being investigated.
Mr. Fitzhenley and then Mr. Wright.
I wanted to ask your comment on two things, Commissioner. The last time I saw you before Sector 4, you were talking about the winding up of the mobile reserve. Can you give us an update on that, one? And Indicom had a media conference recently, and they made some comment about alleging that some police officers not cooperating with ID parades and the High Command doing nothing about it. At least that was the allegation. I suggest perhaps you're aware of those comments. Can you give us a response?
So, okay, so first thing, the winding up took place on, I think, August the 12th. Was it August the 12th? And since then, it's been operating the specialized operations unit. There are a number of transfers out, some transfers in, a reorienting of the staff, changing of a lot of the management, etc. So it's now functioning as specialized operations. You saw them respond when we had the hostage situation on Malines Road recently. That was specialized operations that had responded, those SWAT teams. We have expanded our SWAT units to increase the number of persons involved in that activity. And we have done a number of training serials, not just for the persons who are there in specialized operations, but we did a lot of training for the people who are leaving Mobile Reserve to go to other places. With respect to Indicom, our team, Mr. Hay, and our attorneys, I was meeting with their attorneys to address a myriad of issues. We had a way forward, as far as I was aware, on how we deal with any number of issues around there, and that was laid down. So I'm not clear on what Mr. Williams is talking about specifically with regard to this. I have noticed that there are things mentioned that are long-term things, long-time things, plus current things, all mixed together to make these statements. What I do know is that in terms of some of the things that are measured, we have had significant improvements on those areas in terms of complaints against police officers. That has reduced. And particularly, even as we have prosecuted operations within our states of emergency, which of course give us the most powers, we have found that there's not only a reduction in police violence, as well as all other forms of violence, but a reduction in complaints. So that's where we are. We will continue to work with Indicom to get better outcomes. Good,
Commissioner, one last question for you. So,
you're probably asking the final question of the press conference.
Maybe, I hope so. Based on what has happened so far, and I'm going back now to the Wabi Church.
You know, I was always told never to answer the last question, you know. Well, since it's the last question, but go ahead anyway. I'll see.
I'm wondering if you're concerned that the continued operations there is in keeping with law and order, since we've had more than one complaints coming from there. Now the operations, I suspect, continue, right?
Can I say that whether it is that group or any other group or anybody taking on any activity in Jamaica, our first and default position is, what does the law say? So as we examine some of these activities, the first thing we have to default to is there a law that covers this? What does the law say in these matters? And look at what they do against the law. If there are breaches of the law, then we pursue those. If we have a hint, i.e. people come forward with information on something or something that has been in our own observation, we investigate it. And if we find that in whatever they're doing, they're breaching the law, then we move ahead to prosecution. That's what we do.
So now, you're comfortable?
You asked the final question, sir. We'd like to thank everyone for coming to this press conference, members of agencies, departments, permanent secretaries, members of the police force, members of the army, support staff, members of the media, importantly. Thank you very much for coming. I think there is refreshments outside. Yes. So you can refresh yourself as you leave. Thank you again, and have a wonderful festive season.